All right, everyone, welcome back to today's video. Last time we talked about the AFC quarterbacks, so now let's talk about the NFC quarterbacks. The AFC has always been the conference of quarterbacks, but the NFC actually was pretty good this year. There were a lot of really elite guys, and honestly, I think this year the NFC was better than the AFC. But per usual, we're going to run through each guy, kind of go over how they did. I'm going to give my thoughts on their season and what the future for them looks like. The fun part is now that free agency is started and it's going, we'll have a better idea of what team some guys are going to be on. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. All right, let's get into it. I thought it would be appropriate to start with the Super Bowl winner himself, Sam Darnold, who had a really good year. Obviously he won the Super Bowl. With this past season and the season right before that, he was very much written off. Kind of thought we had a ceiling, that there's somebody better. And every time he's proved them wrong, and the proof is in the pudding now. Sam Darnold had a really good year. Obviously not going to wow you with his stats or anything, but Sam Darnold has had his career kind of all over the place, but he seemed to find his new home in Seattle. And, for Sam Darnold's sake, I hope he continues to succeed. Not really much notes for his season. I will say kind of at the end of the season, especially these last few weeks, I was a little bit skeptical about the Seahawks and their offense. They didn't seem as explosive, I guess, as they were. But truthfully saying, if you go to all these games, they were just running the ball and controlling the clock very well. I'm sure he's going to have another great year next year, and the Seahawks will be in Super Bowl contention again. Staying in the NFC West, we'll talk about his running mate, Matthew Stafford, who was also the MVP of the season. I made a video about Matt Stafford already in the MVP race, and the stats just speak for themselves. He had a crazy year this year. Matt Stafford playing the way he did was a big reason why I thought the LA Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. But Matt Stafford just played great. I don't know where he got the second win from, but he's truly become the ageless wonder. It's interesting seeing how he did, considering at the beginning of the year, before the season even started, there were thoughts that he may not even play. He was dealing with that back injury, and who knows what's going to happen. And fast forward to now, where Matt Stafford is coming back, and frankly, I think he's going to win MVP again. And to add on that, I think he'll hit 50 touchdowns. Moving on to the 49ers, a bit of an interesting season for their quarterback, Brock Purdy. The big one being dealing with a lot of injuries. As you can see by the small sample size right here, looking at the stats, Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. He's going to be a good quarterback. He's a system quarterback, so he's always going to be in that talk of if he's getting paid too much and all that. But at the end of the day, if you're a team that needs a quarterback, you would take Brock Purdy in a heartbeat, if you could. Now, I wouldn't be able to talk about Brock Purdy without talking about Mac Jones. Obviously, real quick, Mac Jones stepped in for Purdy, actually played a majority of the season. He really stepped up, made sure they got in the playoffs, and Brock Purdy was able to just finish the job Mac Jones started. All in all, a really solid year for Brock Purdy. Pretty typical. There wasn't anything crazy, which is a good thing. Who knows with the injuries, and if Brock Purdy played the whole season, who knows how things could have gone. All right, let's talk about Jacoby Brissett or the Cardinals. I'm going to talk mostly about Kyler. Honestly, Jacoby Brissett was pretty solid. Definitely played a lot better than Kyler Murray did. Decent stat lines kind of in all the games. Lots of red L's, as we can see right here. So, you have your solid quarterback, and the Cardinals are obviously a mess, so it's going to take a lot more than a quarterback to fix things. But let's talk about Kyler, who had just signed with the Minnesota Vikings, actually. A very Kyler Murray season for him. Kyler, it seems like every year is Kyler going to finally break out? This is going to be Kyler's year to break out, and he just never does. And it's a shame. Kyler, we all know, is an extremely talented athlete, a great, can be a great quarterback, but it starts to bring the question, was the issue Kyler Murray or was the issue the Cardinals? Now we'll be able to see. He's assumingly going to be the new starter in Minnesota. When we talk about the Vikings, we'll talk about that. And there's not many other situations where he could have gone that will improve him, if anything. Great coaching staff, a great roster, a very stable organization. There's been lots of talks of who will be the next Sam Darnold, that next guy that's going to revamp their career, I guess. And Kyler Murray seems to be the favorite, and for good reason. He's in a great spot to do so. This actually served to the perfect segue to the next division, being the NFC North. So we'll start with the previous Vikings quarterback, that being JJ McCarthy. This was a terrible fucking year for JJ McCarthy. I won't even lie. Now, McCarthy, I've given a lot of slack to, because it wasn't his rookie year, but this was his first year getting on-field action. If you remember, before his season even started as a rookie, in the preseason, he would get injured and miss the entire season. So I counted this as his rookie year. Very Ben Simmons-esque. To his fairness, he was kind of thrown in and kind of screwed over from the beginning. Obviously, hindsight is 2020, but the Vikings decided to move on from Sam Darnold as they felt they hit his ceiling and had wanted to go with their young playmaker. I mean, the Vikings were kind of forced to play McCarthy at that point. Yes, they could have probably brought Darnold back, and if, they didn't make the playoffs, or B, they had the same result where they kind of plateaued, hell would have been Rosen in Minnesota, and they would have said, why not play McCarthy? McCarthy's right there. Especially since, you drafted him 10th overall. I really hope this isn't the end of his career. I think it's definitely too early to write him off. If he can't pick up anything from Kyler, great. I really hope McCarthy can figure things out, because he's a great player. It just a mental thing needs to fix. But I don't anticipate that they brought in Kyler to help McCarthy grow. So now, if you ask me, the best quarterback in the league, Jordan Love, quarterback for the Packers. A really good year for Jordan Love, I will say. The big thing for Love is the interceptions. If we look at 2023, 11 interceptions. Look at 2024, 11 interceptions. And then 2025 went down to 6. And these interceptions were some horrible throws. And he just had some really good games, like really clean games. I'm not going to say he's the next Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, they certainly have a franchise guy with him. The one thing I will say about Love, though, is there was still that issue of stagnicity. Their loss week 3 against the Browns, not a good game at all by Love. And that game, the offense just, they only put up 13 points. They couldn't do anything. Similar to the Panthers, only put up 13 points. Couldn't do anything. And that was a big issue. It seemed like when they couldn't get the run game going and they needed Love to make those magic Aaron Rodgers-esque plays, he just was not able to. So hopefully he can turn that around. The Packers have a bit of a tougher schedule next year, I believe. And, they're gonna lose a lot of guys. So hopefully they can continue this and make that next level push. From being a good team to a Super Bowl contender. All right, let's talk about probably the biggest jump out of the division, in my opinion, that being Caleb Williams. Just made a video about him, actually, so check that out. It's about the rookies, the 2024 rookies. But really good year from Williams. Carried this team through the playoffs. Play after play after play. Holy moly. I was a little skeptical about how much would Ben Johnson really fix Caleb Williams and this Bears offense, and I was fully proven wrong. Caleb Williams was fantastic. He's given, god damn it, the city of Chicago some hope, especially for football, that I feel like they haven't had in, I don't think, ever, to be honest. The one big critique that I was huge on, especially in that last video, was it just was never a full 4 quarters for Caleb Williams. The first 3 quarters pretty bad, and then that 4th quarter came around, things changed, and they look like a totally different team. The sky is obviously still the limit for Caleb Williams. I think he's going to be fine. It's going to be interesting how year 3 goes. The Bears are another team too. They just lost their starting center. Can they replicate that? Now the expectation for Caleb Williams and the Bears is the playoffs, is to win their division and make a deep run. And so can they keep doing that? Who knows? One thing for sure, if they want to do that, Caleb Williams and the Bears need to play full 4th quarter. But all in all, huge kudos to Caleb Williams. Made a huge jump in year 2. He could very much go down as one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Who knows? And then we'll end the NFC North talking about the Detroit Lions quarterback, Jared Goff, who statistically actually had a really good year. I was kind of shocked to see this, actually. But, if you ask a lot of people, I don't think they would say this was a great year for him. Obviously, this was a rough year for the Lions in general. They would miss the playoffs when they were probably a heavy favorite to win the division, and they ended up being last. This was going to be a big transition year. Not only did they lose their offensive coordinator, they lost their defensive coordinator and a ton of their offensive linemen, and that was certainly the biggest issue with Goff, especially. Going back to his days in LA, Goff has always tremendously struggled with even a slight hint of pressure, and as soon as he got that pressure, the game was over pretty much. Their offense couldn't do anything. But, again, Goff had a good year. There's not much more you could have asked for him to do, and he brings stability and a stable offense to Detroit, which, even with Matt Stafford and Megatron, they didn't really have for at least that many years. There were definitely a few more stinkers than normal, I felt like, with Goff. Week 1 against the Packers, which I know was week 1. But, the Lions are going to be fine. Everyone's choosing the Lions to kind of bounce back, go from that last to best team. For good reason. They obviously have a stacked team. Goff's a good quarterback, and I fully anticipate that Goff will be back. And there's not much to say. Just a rough transition year for the Lions, I think, is what kind of brought everything else down with them. All right, let's talk about the infamous NFC South. They're infamous because, as you can see right here, there was not a team with a winning record in this division. But we'll start with Baker Mayfield, quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What a disaster of a year. Not only for Baker, but for the entire Buccaneers team. As you can see right here, these first 6 weeks, they were killing it. Baker was playing like an MVP favorite. Things were going great. The Buccaneers were going to finally be that elite team that we know they can be. And it slowly and slowly started to get worse and worse. And then I feel like this game against the Rams, right before halftime, Baker Mayfield hurt his shoulder, I believe. And he just came back and was never the same. And I truly just think Baker was never healthy for the remainder of that year. It's a bit surprising they kept Todd Bowles. I definitely thought he was on the way out. I certainly think if another season like this occurs, he will not be the coach anymore. But the Buccaneers are a great team. You know, they have a ton of talent. They just lost Mike Evans. So hopefully, you know, one of their new receivers can kind of step in. And hopefully Baker can kind of just find his swagger again. I feel like that's what he lost at the end of the year, was his swagger. I do think this was a bit of a fluky season, kind of a disaster. And I think the Buccaneers will come back sharper than ever. I think Baker will be a little bit more sharper. Yeah, just a travesty of a season for Baker, to be honest. All right, moving on to Bryce Young, quarterback for the Panthers. An extremely up and down season for Bryce Young. Had some amazing games and had some not very amazing games. I mean, look at right here. Against the Falcons, those were 448, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and then, you know, goes to San Francisco, 169, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. I mean, you kind of look over in the grand scheme of things and a lot of up and down, a lot of up and down. And that's been the issue for Bryce Young ever since he was drafted. We just don't know if he is a franchise guy or not. He has the games where he is, and then he has the games where he should be on the bench. We all know Bryce Young has what it takes to be a great quarterback. He was phenomenal in Alabama. He's going to be going into year 4, I believe. Yeah, he's going to be going to year 4. And the clock has to be ticking. I think we all like Bryce Young. He kind of has that underdog aura with him, and it's not like the Panthers are a horrible team. They have, you know, really good, solid young receivers, and they have a really solid defense. So, I mean, if Bryce Young figures it out, plays a solid season, just consistently does enough to keep them to win, the Panthers looking like they can win double-digit wins this year, if I'm being honest. Another tough year for one of these 2024 guys, that being Michael Penix Jr. Obviously, he tore his ACL, so missed a good part of the year. Kirk Cousins would come in. Actually, Kirk Cousins played a lot better. He might get signed. He's still a free agent, I believe. But just another really rough year for Michael Penix. The stats were okay. Like, obviously, statistically, you're like, oh, not too bad. But a lot of stagnation. And I think what makes this worse about this type of stagnation is the Falcons are stacked. I mean, they possibly have the best running back in the league with Bijan Robinson. Drake London is easily a top 8 receiver in the league. And their defense, especially their pass rush, obviously I know James Pierce, who knows now, but their defense was great last year. And it seemed like that instability at the quarterback spot that kept them at 8 and 9. I'm really hopeful for Michael Penix. He's probably, out of all the 2024 guys, he's the one I'm rooting for the most. The Falcons also just got their new quarterback. They just signed Tua Tagovailoa, who, if you ask me, is a horrible signing. I mean, I feel like at that point, just roll with Penix and get someone else. So I fully anticipate there'll be a QB competition in Atlanta. We'll have to see who comes out on top. I really hope it's Michael Penix, but I do have a feeling it might be Tua. If there is an opportunity for Penix to kind of make that jump, it's this year. The Falcons just hired Kevin Stefanski as their new head coach, a really good, smart, offensive-minded guy. And if he can work his magic, turn Michael Penix's career around, I mean, that would just simply be lovely. I mean, he beats out Tua, his career could be on a much better track. All right, we'll end the NFC South with the biggest shock, I think, of the rookie class, that being Tyler Shough. Don't let the age fool you. This was his first year. He was drafted in the 2nd round. As soon as he was drafted, I mean, people were going to say it was going to be terrible, and the Saints were just going to draft, I guess, Arch Manning next year. Tyler Shough kind of towards the end of the draft process really jumped up draft boards. He became kind of one of the more pro-ready quarterbacks, and I was a little iffy on it, not going to lie, and especially a little bit more iffy when the Saints drafted him in the 2nd round. And I mean, he proved me wrong. Stats were don't get me wrong, but I mean, he made some really good plays and like he looked really solid. I certainly think there's a lot more hope with Tyler Shough in New Orleans. They've also had a really good free agency too. They're making some moves and they're going to give him help. You got to remember, just because of how weak this division is, any of these teams can make a huge jump, and especially Tyler Shough and the Saints, he has as much as a chance as anyone to make it into the playoffs. We'll have to see how year 2 goes. The big thing with Shough, obviously, is just that he's going to be 27, and so you know, there's not going to be that much room with a guy like one of these younger guys to get that improvement. So we're going to you kind of going to have to hope he makes the jump in U2 or U3 and you get a nice solid few years out of him. All right, in our final division, the NFC East, a rougher year for the East than usual, but we'll start with Mr. Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Cowboys, who honestly had a really good year this year. Looking at the record of them being 7-9, I think we all could agree that Dak was not the issue. I mean, there were tons of games on here where he quite literally was the only reason why they were winning or competitive. It feels like ever since Dak signed that contract extension, he's always been in the discussion of, was he worth it? Are he overpaid? And honestly, I think Dak's did a pretty good job of proving it's not his fault. Of course, the story with this year is that Jerry Jones is a dipshit. The Cowboys, I'm sure their offense is going to be great again next year. I really like them keeping George Pickens and Javonte Williams. And of course, you know, the CD, Jake Ferguson's also very good. But I mean, it's always easy to overlook how good Dak is just because, everyone loves hating on the Cowboys. I mean, me too, fuck the Cowboys, but it's just they don't win a lot of games, and it's never Dak's fault, so to say. But I think once Dak finally calls it on his career, I think Dak will go down as one of the biggest wasted opportunities, I guess we'll say. All right, let's move on to the Eagles and their quarterback Jalen Hurts, who many people would describe as a down year for him, but honestly, this year was not much different than last year. But obviously, him being in Philadelphia, things are always going to be looked at a lot more, I guess, in depth. Kind of a different type of transition. I think this was another transitional year for the Eagles. They just lost their OC, I believe, and they were it seemed like they just weren't as on top of things as they were last year. It certainly didn't help that Saquon Barkley had a bit of a down year compared to last year. And when I say down year, Saquon was obviously still pretty solid. That 2024 season, he was quite literally unstoppable. And then there was the whole thing with AJ Brown and all that, and it was just kind of a mess for the Eagles. I do like Jalen Hurts. I do think he's definitely overhated. There's certainly no need to look for another quarterback. I think they're totally content with Jalen Hurts, and they should be. And I mean, I think there's a good chance Jalen Hurts turn things around. The Eagles kind of come back a little bit. All right, let's move on to the Commanders. Not a great sample size. Was a really, really rough year for the Commanders. Now, of course, Jaden Daniels was dealing with a lot of injuries this past year. Did not get that many games in. But, I mean, if you look at the games he played, he wasn't great either. I certainly think this was a year of the Commanders coming down to earth a little bit. We all know how good Jaden Daniels is. I mean, he had one of the best rookie seasons ever. Easily could have won Rookie of the Year. And I still think that there's, it's not too easy to write them off. Myself included, I think we just all bit too much into the juice of the Commanders, and we gotta remember that the Commanders are they're still kind of figuring out who they are out too. I could talk about Mariota and the other guys. I mean, they were all right. Mariota didn't do anything crazy, just kind of played that pretty typical backup role that started when their starter was hurt. But I fully hope that Daniels comes back fully healthy and can really go back to that that Daniels we saw his rookie year. All right, and last but certainly not least, the quarterback of the Giants, rookie Jackson Dart, who at the end of the year was second, I think, for Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year voting. I mean, this week 3, this was his first start, week 3 against the Chargers. Not a great stats weren't crazy, but I mean, he was electric, and that Giants offense looked like a Giants offense I can't remember seeing, to be honest. God forbid, there's a glimmer of QB hope in New York, who knows how long the last time that's been. Some big kind of key issues with Dart was there were a lot of games where they kind of just fizzled out. Like, he just really couldn't make throws. I mean, there were just times where like 3 and out. And I know he's a rookie, so hopefully that's a rookie part. But even bigger is his health. He took a ton of hits. It felt like every week he was in concussion protocol. He just needs to protect his body a lot more. And I mean, if things go right for the next few years, there's a really good shot that the Giants could see themselves in the playoffs. I mean, even this upcoming next year, if things go right, they make some good picks, players make that jump, they could be at least competitive, 7, 8, 9 wins. All in all, I really like Jackson Dart's year. For a rookie, was pretty solid, very good. There's not really, if you're going to watch him, like, what should I take away for next year? It's going to be that Dart has what it takes, and it's going to come down to, can he do it or not? But that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me. That was my little series of recapping all the QBs. Let me know if you guys would like to see any certain players or any certain positions, and who you'd like me to recap. So Thank you guys.